Hey guys, welcome to the Centre Bounce. In today's episode, we're talking our complete rookie guide. We're going through all the relevant players, all the guys you should be considering for your team, the reasons why, and maybe a few players you shouldn't. Stay tuned. Joe, SUPERCOACH is here. We've got a couple more days to go, and I know a few of us, me included and yourself, we're still making our teams and tinkering with things. How's it going? And are you excited for today's episode?
I'm very excited. I'm really happy, as I was telling you off air, I'm really happy with where my team is at the moment. First time I have felt all preseason that this is right for me. But now we're going to be talking about the rookies. This is the rookies that dictate our structure, the ones that you need to get in. And we're going to rapid fire go through a whole team worth of rookies that we think are going to play, that we think could be SUPERCOACH relevant, and even the ones that people have selected that we are not big on. We are going to talk all of them.
Yeah, there's a few players in here with way too high ownership for their scoring potential. Maybe they're people who made a team like 6 months ago and then haven't touched it, but we're here to dissect the whole thing and make sure that our fans, the guy that watch our videos, they know who to pick for their teams.
Yep, exactly. And we are not going to waste any time here. We're going to go straight into it, and we're going to start off with the back line as we always do. As you can see, we do have the SUPERCOACH mod activated here for your viewing with the faces. We have released a video for all of you out there who are interested in having this for yourself. Head on over and watch that video. I give you a very quick and easy tutorial on how to activate it. And we're going to use it here today to talk about these rookies. First one being Jace Burgoyne, 179,700, rookie from Port Adelaide. Now, he's here as a defender, but don't be confused. He has not been playing defense. He is used on a wing. We saw that in their practice match with Adelaide. And he looks to be in contention for a round one spot on that wing. Do you think he is relevant for SUPERCOACH this year? Are you getting him in your side, Big J?
Nah, there's no chance. I don't mind the player. I think he's okay, but he only played something like 60% game time in the preseason practice match. He should be able to cement a spot, as you say, but there's a lot of contention for players, and he's a very, very expensive price compared to some other guys who we're putting into our side. So for me, it's a no. Some people will pick him. Maybe he ends up being the Dylan Williams that we've had in previous years. Congratulations to him and all your Port fans who did select him. But for me, it's a no. Who's up next, Joe?
Josh Kipkiss. Think he needs no introduction. This guy, I mean, seriously, I reckon he really should be in everybody's team. The guy's got rock solid job security. He is cheaper than he was when he entered the game a couple of years ago. He has had injury riddles in the past, but he is well and truly over those, went overseas and has come back in ripping nick. He is going to be taking the number one forward over there at the Richmond Tigers every single week, and he doesn't need a lot of the pill. He's going to get a lot of points from contested spoils, getting points from those 1%ers, and every now and then he will take an intercept mark just to boost that scoring. He didn't dominate at all on the weekend that went past, and he still scored a 76. This guy is easily making you 150K. Get him in your team.
Yep, definitely. Nick Coffield comes up next. Obviously, the Dogs did not play a preseason, did not play a round one game, but Caufield's done okay. He hasn't cemented his spot in my eyes, only scored the 51 in the preseason game. And I think there's a few other players like Buku Kamas who might actually be pushing him out for a spot. He was announced as playing this week. We don't know if he's going to be the sub or a bench player, actually get a spot in the team, but I'm just not convinced that the job security is there. I don't have him in my side. Do you have him in yours, Joe?
I do have him in my team on the bench simply because he was named. If he doesn't work out, I can always go down to the last person on this defender list if he doesn't get up. But have him currently because of his potential in terms of job scoring, in terms of his point scoring. We move to Zach Reed. This guy I've always had in my preseason throughout the entire time. We absolutely love this kid over there at the Bombers. Very high draft pick. He's touted as a 202 centimeters, but he's grown even more. He's now 205 plus. So get around this guy. Despite his height, he is still very agile, can kick on both feet. His job security is rock solid. We have had an injury to Jordan Ridley. I thought he was always going to play anyway, but with the injury to Rids, I think that even solidifies him further. When Ridley went down in the last quarter, you saw Reed get involved in the play and take some more marks as well himself. So I think Zach Reed really should be in everybody's team.
Yeah, I've got him in mind, potentially an on-field option as well with Gibcus for me. So I know a few of us are running 2 defenders on field in the back line. Looks like I might be doing the same. Reed's one of those guys for me.
And this guy as well, Big J?
Mate, I love me a bit of Howes. Came out of nowhere and just did very, very well. Looks like Mitch Hibbert obviously isn't going to be playing, and then Howes seems to be taking that spot, and just kind of came in and did what he needs to do. Isn't an 18-year-old recruit. He's about 20 years old and has cemented himself into the team. For someone who we knew nothing about over the preseason, this kid came out of nowhere, and sometimes it happens in SUPERCOACH. So all congrats to him.
100%. That is one of the good news stories out of round 0. Another good news story is for Toby Pink. Made his way into North Melbourne's backline from the Sandful. He was one of, if not the best defender in the Sandful before making his way to North Melbourne as a delisted free agent. You'd imagine that this guy has a fair crack at being named and playing for North Melbourne, given how depleted the backline is. He's not going to accumulate a lot of the football. He's going to be mainly a key position player, similar to a Gibcus, getting most of his points from contested spoils. I wouldn't have him anywhere near your field.
It's an interesting one because North Melbourne's still got Comben and Core and a little bit of a make-up switch to go there. Does he survive? Does he not survive? I don't think there's many people starting him for those reasons, but he did do very well in the preseason game. So, maybe someone to watch if he gets named, but the job security is always going to be a bit sketch, and 1 or 2 bad games and he's out of the team.
Yeah, what about Ari? Does he have good job security, you reckon?
Oh, well, Webster's out, and Sinclair looks like he won't be playing for a while, so potentially. Did score quite well on the weekend, does have the booming kick, and they love him down back there in St Kilda. Came in as an late draft pick, so wasn't an early one, and, did have a 60 on the weekend. So someone to watch. I think there's some better players, but 83 AFL Fantasy and 60 SUPERCOACH, there is some people selecting him, Joe. Is he in your team?
No, not in mine at the moment. I do have others that I think are more important. I think Gibcus, Caulfield, Reed, Howes, I think all these guys are ahead of Showmaker, and I'd possibly even have this next guy ahead of him as well, Ethan Phillips. The supplemental pick, SSP. His VFL numbers are really, really strong. He's an intercept king, and unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be playing an intercepting role for the Hawks, given all of their key position going down to injury. So I totally expect that he's going to be playing accountable. He got the call up immediately as soon as another one too many injuries took place. He got the call mid-game. They need him to play. I think they need him to play given their rotten luck. And I reckon for 102K, it's pretty hard to turn him down.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here, but we're going to do something for the fans. Let's take away the players that you should not be considering for your team and leave the ones who we think are rock-solid picks, and you just have to choose where they're going to fit. So from that list there in the back line, probably I'd get rid of Jace Burgoyne. Definitely is one. I'd probably get rid of Toby Pink as one, and then maybe Showenmakers on the list there. I know we spoke a little bit about Dean potentially being a selection, and yes, he did look good. I don't think he scored that well in the preseason game, though. The job security does look to be there with Murphy not playing and potentially Howe being out for a little while. So he could be in people's considerations as well. But just to clean things up for people, make it a lot easier, you should fill your back line with some of these players and forget the other ones.
Yeah, I agree. Caulfield, I think, has the sketchiest of the job security. He does play for Bevo as well, which makes it really hard to really back him in. I think he will present us with decent scoring on the field if he gets named, but just based on, keep a close eye on Thursday night for team sheets. If you can only pick 4 of them, might not be a bad idea starting with Caulfield on your bench. And if he's not named, you can very easily drop to Ethan Phillips, save yourself some $20,000 and put it somewhere else. But I think these 5 are your best bet in defense.
There you go. So let's check out the midfielders, Joe. Now, I've been very outspoken about Colby McKercher and potentially fading him. My current iteration of the team has him in there just due to, money constraints. But the kid's a freak. He obviously is warranted, pick 2 in the draft, and we know how good he is. We saw him against the Saints. He did suffer, though, in the preseason match. Almost looked like he was relegated to a back pocket position. If he's named in a similar position in the game this weekend, it's going to be an interesting one. There are a lot of options around that price that you can downgrade or with some catch upgrade to. What do you think about McKercher?
I love him. I have him in my time. I have him in my side, in my team. He's never left it. Big raps for him. I'm pretty sure. Who was it on your team that was just like, holy crap, when they saw this guy play? Because he is Jai Simpkin. Yeah, so holy crap. There's Jimmy Webster in front of me, and holy crap, there's Kobe McKercher in front of me. So I think Kobe McKercher is going to be playing off halfback. I think Clarko would be an absolute madman if he doesn't play him off halfback. They need to develop him, his draft profile, and his skills with the ball in hand. He's just primed, I think, to play off halfback. North Melbourne have shown in the past that they're capable of having multiple defenders score quite well. And I think if they're struggling to get him involved in the play, I think Sheasel might make his way out of the back line in order to allow McKercher to have the ball in his hands. And don't you worry, playing for North Melbourne, he'll get heaps of supply back there, unfortunately.
Competition for spots, really. Bailey Scott, McKercher, Sheasel, Zach Fisher. A lot of people taking ball off each other. So just something to consider, but 100% agree. Fantastic bloody player.
You'll get the DPP as well. Someone with DPP is Zane Dersma at 193. He very highly owned, which actually surprised me. Look, don't get me wrong. The kid is a talent. He reminds me a lot of Connor Rozee in the way he's impacting forward of the ball. He is a wonderful talent, but the problem is playing in that North Melbourne forward line is not going to necessarily translate to the best of scoring. And for 193K, that is a lot of money to pay when you've got other people who are cheaper. Personally, I would not go with Dersma. Nothing against him as a pick. He's going to be a wonderful, sensational player for many years into the future. But from a SUPERCOACH perspective, he's not for me.
Yeah, for me too. Just these forward types, they'll kick a couple of goals, but at that price, pay up and get a Harley Reid or pay, drop some money and do a few other things. Riley Sanders definitely is someone that everyone should have locked into their team. Throw some money on him for the rising star as well. I know I've hyped on McKercher and Wardlaw and whatnot, but the kid's a freak, Joe. Obviously, he's locked into your team on field.
Yep.
There you go. Let's go to the next player.
Harry
Hustwaite, Joe. Go for it.
Henry Hustwaite, not Harry Hustwaite. I know you keep calling him Harry all the time. It's just like, is it Harry or Henry? Yeah. Henry, he's been given every opportunity now with Will Day's injury, opening the door for a midfield spot. He did really, really well in that practice game against the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs are no slouch. They are really, really impressive, especially in the midfield. And for him to perform as well as he did, mainly in the first quarter, but he still had a wonderful outing. Think this guy is primed to play more on the ball. He does play for Sam Mitchell, though, who can be hit or miss when it comes to giving opportunities to players in the midfield, a la Cam McKenzie last year, where he had 50% CBAs in round 1 and then 0% in round 2. So Hustwaite, I think he's got the talent. He's got the role, I think, and the job security up until when Will Day comes back. After that, where he plays, unsure. But that's what I think to start with. Definitely a worthwhile selection against the Bombers in round 1. And we are going to be without Darcy Parish. So I think that could mean more ball for Henry Hustwaite in round 1.
Yeah, could end up bullying on a few people as well. I think Mitchell's smart enough that if the player is playing well enough, they're going to try and keep him in the position because they've shown in the past they're not a team that's going to tank, right? They're going to push players. They beat the Dogs and they beat Brisbane and a few other teams last year. They want to start winning games. If Hustwaite's playing in a great position, they're going to play him. So it's in my team. Not sure on the bench or on field at the moment, but definitely pay a selection there.
Yep.
Charlie Lazaro is someone who looks to potentially have a position, isn't a first-year rookie like a lot of these guys on the list. For me, it's a little bit sketch where he plays and then also what his scoring is going to be like. Yes, he did okay in the preseason game, which is fantastic, right? There's no Taron Thomas in the team, but I think he's one of the worst selections from the North Melbourne side. Is in your team, Joe?
Uh, don't think so from memory. Put me on the spot, but he could very well be. I think the forward mid DPP can come in really clutch. He's got the good
Yeah.
buy. And as long as he plays, which I think he will, it might not necessarily be the best role possible, but if he plays, I think he'll make us money. He's good coverage. That forward mid enables us to really field and cover. For example, if you've got a couple of people in the forward line who have a particular buy, like if you've got a Flanders and a Sexton, for example, Flanders has mid eligibility as well. So, and you might have, for example, an Aaron Cadman on your bench, and both of these two teams share the buy. So what you can do is you can have Lazaro on your forward bench with Flanders in your forward line, and then you can actually swap them around and move Lazaro to your forward line on field and have your other rookie on the bench cover for Sexton. So that's a player that I really like that we don't see from a Henry Hustwaite, from a Sanders, from a McKercher. It's that forward eligibility. So for me, I think he is a worthwhile selection there. Very similar to a Caleb Windsor, who also has that forward eligibility. I think Windsor's job security is probably stronger than Lazaro's, but Windsor's playing on an outside wing. He is a very smooth operator. I love this kid. He's a very nice mover of the football, very eye-catchy. I've loved his preseason games. Even his round 0 game, I thought he did decently well. The problem for me is, given his outside role and stuck on a wing, I'm unsure how good his scoring power is going to be. He's kicked 2 goals in the preseason game and still couldn't hit 80 points. And now in round 0, he hit a 58. So for me, you might get better job security, but you're not going to get as good scoring power. And for that, I don't have Windsor in my team.
Yeah, like you can probably downgrade to either of them if a McKercher or someone else doesn't work out for you. Try and make sure you do have some cash, in the bank, or be like Joe and then have a 0 running team for a few weeks. So it's always a bit of fun that way. Matt Roberts just won the Rising Star, has got a super low break even. I think it's second lowest break even so far out of everyone. Where is he playing for you, Joe? Obviously, we spoke a little bit about him potentially not having a spot with Lloyd and Blakey in the team, but seems like he's cemented now.
100%. He's on my field. I saw what I had to see in the round 0 game. That's one of the big benefits of a round 0 because it is a genuine home and away game. It's not a preseason game. It's not a practice game. It is premiership points on the line. And Roberts, when the season came, he's played off halfback, and Lloyd had to spread his wings out on the wing. The Seagull was not getting any free chips in the back line. So Roberts, well and truly on my field. Really happy about starting him. And I think the guy next to him is also someone who I think will be very good cover for you during the buys when you have an early buy premium, for example. Clark, he is young mini Joel Selwood in the making. He looked wonderful. I loved every time he attacked the ball. He judged the drop of the ball so well, especially in that Essendon game in the preseason. He just clearance after clearance. He might not necessarily be the highest scorer in terms of possessions getting, but I think he's got great job security, and I can't wait to see him play in the regular season. He is locked on my bench.
Yeah, 100%. He had the highest contested possessions out of anyone in that Geelong team with 10, and he only played 70% game time. So, make it 80%. Being a new player, hey, the kid's a freak. So very, very happy to have him there. Someone who we haven't really seen much of is Binns from Carlton, and maybe not someone that we're, super keen on selecting at the moment.
No, we're not. He definitely had a lot more better of a preseason coming up to this game, to the start of the season. He's not the one that had the most fanfare. I know sometimes it was alternating between Carroll and Binns. I think Carroll early on in the piece was getting a lot of fanfare from the Carlton fans in the preseason, and then it was Binns for a period of time after that. But after what we saw in round 0, it's definitely going to be firmly on Carroll and not the Binns variety. Came on as the sub, in that game against Brisbane Lions, and my word, he did fantastic. Doherty, it's tragic news that he did his ACL. Carroll came in, subbed on, slot straight into that midfield rotation, and he did an incredible job. I think he's won. If the bye obviously comes at a really unfortunate time before his third game, and I think many people are looking to correct to him after that bye.
Oh, 100%. Like, it just gives you a free shot as well, potentially a cash upgrade. So you might have a player who you lost your background, Joe.
Did we?
You might have a player who potentially is, scoring a little bit, but not as much as what you want. Get a price rise out of him and then chuck to Carroll in round 3. So, definitely someone to look out for. Maybe not on my bench at the moment, just depending on what my midfield looks like, but could definitely go and downgrade a Hurstwaite if something happens with him. Jeremy Sharp, Joe, for our last midfielder.
Yeah, he's playing on a wing. Fortunately, we didn't get to see too much of him in the preseason due to illness in the first one, and then in the second game, didn't really, I suppose, unfortunately, show what he can do. I think he's definitely an incredible runner. Was their best runner, I think, during the preseason. Moved across from the Gold Coast Suns VFL to Fremantle, and he had a couple of really good seasons there. He scored an 84 and 113 in the last 2 years. So in terms of VFL scoring, he does have it. And you never know. He could be a worthwhile selection. I'm definitely keen to see, though, team sheets if he gets up, because I don't think he had the best showing in the preseason.
Yeah, no, I definitely think so as well. There was some talks that maybe he got a bit of a knock or some managed minutes in the Waffle game. So something to watch out for. Isn't in my selection at the moment, but, upgrade target or a bit of a sideways if, things go and shit the bed. So wait and see there. Let's take away our players who you probably shouldn't be considering for your team, and then have a bit of a chat about, probably the guys who are the most picked or the most wanted for us, and then guys who, okay, if you want to be a bit pod-centric, you can go for. So Dersman's probably off the list, Joe.
Agreed.
Bins and probably Jeremy Sharp's off the list.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm willing to wait on Sharp.
Okay.
I'm willing to wait on Sharp for list. I think he is best 22. I think he's got a wing spot cemented. I'm just happy to correct to him if I have to. But if you're really short on rookies on your bench, he could be an option, I think. I'm not willing to put a complete line through him. There's an asterisk next to him. He was ill during the preseason. So I'm willing to give him a little bit of a break. I think McKercher you should, Sanders you should, Hustwaite you should. Lazaro, I think that it's the forward DPP, I think. And if you were to pick out of Lazaro or Windsor, I think I'd go Lazaro. So for that, I don't want to put a line through Windsor because I know if you like him, then you can select him. Plus he plays for Melbourne, which means that they have that bye with Richmond playing 6 games in 5 weeks. I don't want to put a line through him either. I honestly think all of these guys are possible selections.
Yeah, I think for me, it's probably like every team that I've made has had Sanders, Hustwaite, Roberts, Clark, and then someone else. So potentially a McKercher. I've seen a couple of Jack Carrolls as well. So probably those 5 or 6 there for me. Everyone else is kind of whatever.
They're the top 5.
Right. Yeah.
And then Windsor's a potential, and Carroll is also potential. So
and Lazaro. And Lazaro. Right. Yeah. So ruckline. We started off the preseason with high hopes that all these guys were going to be, playing or solo ruck, especially with Jordan Sweet. It's kind of gone to shit at the moment. Conway isn't really, going to be playing much. Jordan Sweet lost his role after about 30 minutes of game time. And then Naismith might not even play because Nank's out. The state of our ruckline rookies is not great, Joe.
Yeah, no, it's not great whatsoever. I can totally understand if someone wants to go for a Livingston loop at R3, especially if they're going to have Jackson in their forward line and you'd be able to have that coverage. But yeah, Conway, he just doesn't look ready for it. Not very skinny, I think, still a bit too lanky. And I think Geelong got a bit more out of Stanley and Blixarves in the ruck, to be honest, more than Conway did. Plus, they were involved in the play more. Jordan Sweet he's not sweet. He's sheet. Okay, he's a sheet player. All right. Why you would think that sheet is going to get ahead of Soldo makes no sense to me. So yeah, Soldo is definitely going to be the number 1 ruck over there at Port Adelaide. Naismith, I do have hopes for him because he plays for Richmond, and Richmond have Nankervis trying to manage a plantar fascia, which is a really annoying and could be lingering injury. And Nankervis is prone to getting injured and or getting suspended. So you never know. Naismith could have a chance to play 3 games. He does play for Richmond, which means that, if he manages to play all those games in the lead up to the season, that's 6 games in 5 weeks.
Yep.
Having said that, I don't think it happens, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one. Maybe they play 2 rucks, or maybe they play like a pinch hit ruck, but they've got Tom Lynch and Ryan as well, who can play those roles. It's a bit of a rough one, and that's where a lot of us have actually gone to. If we take away Sweet and Conway, Joe, a lot of us have actually gone back to, cool, we're just going to run a loophole player. It's going to save us round 1. It's going to save us round 4. Potentially those people that have Jackson as well, you can get some buy coverage with, a swap with Livingston or Finbar Maley. So maybe chuck those 2 in there. And we'll have a little bit of a chat about those 2, Joe.
I don't think Finbar's going to play. Based on what what our discussions have been over this preseason. Obviously, we've hoped and dreamed, but doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. Don't think he's in their best 22 or 23. Going to need quite a few injuries to go there to go his way in order to get on board. Livingston, though, I think is the more likely and the more common of the loopholes because West Coast have quite a few games in the regular season that are later on in a weekend, whether it be a Saturday or a Sunday, whereas Finbar's playing a few more games earlier on in the season. So if you're picking either of these 2 players, it's because you're using them as loopholes, and Livingston, by virtue of the later games, enables you to pick a VC beforehand and then check to see if you want to go with a captaincy option afterwards. So Livingston, I think, is going to be the more common of the selections.
Yeah, no, I definitely think so. He's in my team at the moment, and I'm pretty happy with running him as an R3 selection. So hopefully that gives you guys a bit of a, idea and guide of which ruckman to pick. It was the most confusing line, really, for a lot of people. So I don't know how Finbar is still like 30% owned. Hopefully it won't be after watching this. Our forward line, Joe, it's been a real tricky one because we've got a lot of mid-price players, Fife, James Jordan, Harms, Billings for a short period of time. We're all viable selections, and a lot of us weren't picking a lot of these players. But it really feels like maybe we're going a little bit more towards the 400K range with guys like Heaney and Hogan and a few others coming in. Let's go off. Harley Reid. Round 1, first preseason game, I was like, jump off Harley Reid. Round 2 preseason game, I was like, cool, get back on Harley Reid. He's locked in my team. I think at the moment he's either F4 or F5 or F6. What about you?
Yeah, I've always believed in the kid. Definitely, I was preaching to calm the farm. I was his lawyer for a week there, trying to defend his honor. He never left my team. Harley Reid's still in there. He definitely looks better. I can understand where you guys are all coming from. Off halfback, he looked a lot lost and confused. That's not his role. He is a high-impact contested ball winner playing around the ball, and that's where we saw him play in the second preseason game against Adelaide, and he looked really good. So well done to Harley Reid. He is, I think, someone that you need to have in your team. Unlike this guy, Jackson Mead, for me, I think there's too many question marks over his head. Yes, I know he's playing the Sam Powell-Pepper role. I think given that Sam Powell-Pepper got himself suspended for being stupid, but I mean, what's nothing new there from Powell-Pepper, unfortunately. So I think he's got decent job security in the short term. Does he have great scoring power, though? He might play for these 4 weeks until Sam Powell-Pepper comes back, after which he loses that position. I don't think he's going to be playing on the ball a lot. I think his score was very much inflated in the preseason because Zach Butters barely played in that game, was taken off in the first quarter as a precaution, just because it was a preseason game. And I think Mead really capitalized on it. He needs to play around the ball, and I don't think he's going to be able to do so sustainably moving forward. So for me, at 199,000, I think is too much money at his price.
Yeah, 100% agree. If we didn't have a Cadman or a Sexton or even a Harley Reid around that price, who probably going to offer similar scoring or better, maybe a Mead can find himself into my team. I was hyped on him a little bit in the preseason, but at the moment, it's a big no. Someone who I am hyped on a little bit at the moment is Lockie McNeil. And he did play the 13 games last year for the Dogs. So there is some consistency there and has come out in the preseason game and done quite well against both. Admittedly, it was versus the Hawks for both, but has done well. I know he's not in your team, Joe, but can you see a world where McNeil actually does okay and ends up being, the submarine smoky pick for us in the forward line this year?
He could be, but he plays for Bevo, and who knows how Bevo runs his teams. It's always bizarre to me.
It always
and McNeil sort of, I don't know. He's played the last few seasons really on the edge of getting delisted and being cut and rookie listed now. So I think Lockie McNeil, his career is hanging on by a thread. He really needs to perform, but he'll never be the main guy down there. I don't know. For me, he's not for me. I think you're going to have some pretty bad floor games from him, I imagine. And for that, at 159K, I think there are cheaper options that are more likely to select, like this next guy, Ollie Dempsey. I think this guy is a great pod. Not widely owned, he's 148K, so it's a slightly elevated price, but man, he played so well against the Bombers in that practice game. He would push up the ground, take some marks in towards the middle of the ground, that high half forward roll, and then he would make some great decisions going inside 50. He kicked a nice goal as well, took a few marks. He just seemed really composed and ready at the level. I think there's no Gary Rowan, who's injured his hammy again, so I think that does improve his job security. He just had to survive Ollie Henry coming back into the side. If he's named with Ollie Henry, then I think that means that his job security is going to be really good. Plus, I think his scoring power is really good as well. So I currently have Dempsey on my bench. I'm really keen to see how he goes.
Yeah, 100%. If you look at his scoring, only 15 touches, 3 tackles, kicked a goal and got 93 Supercoach. So we know how effective this guy is by foot and just his 1%ers and then kind of those rundown things. The stuff that maybe doesn't end up on the stat sheet, but on field looks really good. Dempsey's definitely that type of player. We saw last year where he did have those games, like when he debuted and did quite well, but then fell away a little bit. Not a selection for me at the moment just because of the inflated price, but I could definitely see a world where, hey, if he starts to pop out hundreds, I might be forced to do some shenanigans and bring him in. You don't want to miss out on these type of rookies. Someone who you should never miss out on, especially at 133K, we've hyped him up all preseason, Joe, Alex Sexton. Last week, he got like a 115. This week, only a 73. Still a great selection, right?
Just lock him in, guys. Honestly, just lock the guy in. Don't be silly. Lock him in. He's a fieldable option. Don't miss him. Same thing with Darcy Wilson. Just don't be stupid. Select him. They're both Jets. They're both guns. They're both locked in. Best 22 players. Great roles. Darcy Wilson, he's got the forward, he's got the mid eligibility as well. Just don't mess around. Get both of these guys in. Someone that
Darcy Wilson's just been named as well. So
yeah, there you go. On your Darcy. So yeah, get these guys both in. Lock the key, throw it away into the Tasman. Cadman is someone that not everybody owns. I know some people are a little bit, skeptical about him and his ability as a footballer. He's a number 1 draft pick, right? Does that automatically mean you're going to be a good player? No, just look at Andy McGrath, for example. But I think he's a key forward. He's building. He's looked really impressive over the preseason. A lot of people have been talking him up from teammates' perspective. He scored a 55 against Collingwood without really having a dominant game. And it seems that he's going to be important for team structure because he's also pinch hitting in the ruck. I know that he's got an early bye to come, but what sort of offsets that is that he's got North and West Coast to come in the next 2 weeks, as you can see here. And that could mean that he can make some good money before his bye. I wouldn't put him on the field by any stretch because I think his job security is high, but his scoring power might be a little bit lower than others. However, we're selecting him on the hopes that he pops off in the next 2 games and makes us a lot of money really quickly.
Yeah, definitely. It was interesting seeing the game on the weekend because he was on something like 12 Supercoach. Took a nice mark, got a goal, and ended up on 35 or 36. So just kind of having that, be able to have those spike, touches and things like that was really impressive. I've got him in my team at the moment, but depending on how well he does next week, could determine if I downgrade to someone like a Seth Campbell. And it's weird downgrading a 127K player, But Seth Campbell, similar to a few of these other guys, has just come out of nowhere, Joe. I did not know anything about this player. All I know is he scored 70 Supercoach, looked good, and seems to be in Adam Uze's eye in playing every week. So, yeah, is he someone that you're considering at the moment?
I am considering him because he scored 70 as a small forward in a smashing, which is quite impressive. You'd anticipate surely that the Richmond Tigers are going to be a lot more competitive than what they showed last week against the Gold Coast Suns. Hopefully that means that he can get more opportunities in front of the big sticks. He converted most of them. I think he kicked 2 goals, 1, which was really impressive for him. Really opportunistic goals as well. One a quick snap, another one on a lead. They need to play youth. They need to blood some youngsters. They need to really redevelop this team. And for that reason, I do think that his job security is going to be pretty solid, at least in the short term. I think, he can play the 6 games in the 5 weeks, potentially make us substantial money. I wouldn't have him on field, but I do like him as a bench option at F8.
Yeah, and it's pretty crazy that after next week, he's basically on the bubble too. So you have to really wait and see what happens. But if he comes out with the 70 plus again, he almost becomes a must-have. Chuck him in your team because this guy could be 200K in 3 weeks. And that kind of cash gen and scoring potential, you just don't want to miss out on. So stay tuned. We'll let you know which guys to jump on. But definitely Campbell has to be in your watch.
Yeah. All right. So of the players that we think are viable, we think Campbell's a viable player. I think Cadman's viable. Wilson, Sexton, lock him in. I do think Dempsey's viable as a nice little pod as well. Slide, under the radar a little bit. Harley Reid, I think you need. Jackson Mead, probably not.
Probably not. Yep.
Given the question marks over him, lack of long-term security. And you never know if he's going to keep playing around the ball, especially if Butters comes back. And Butters has been earmarked as being completely fit and ready to play. So that could mean that those CBAs that he was getting in the practice game are gone.
Yep. And McNeil's probably on that list as well. Someone who could be a pipe dream player, obviously a bit more experienced and older. But in terms of Supercoach, these are guys realistically who you want to play either on field or on the bench. McNeil's not that player for us. Nope. Chuck him in the bin.
So he goes chucked in the bin. So really go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to say on-field options, you probably want to play Harley Reid, of course, and then one or both of Sexton and Wilson, depending on what your bench is like and how many rookies you're playing on field. But all 3 should probably be in your team. They need to be a lot higher ownership than what they are.
Yep, correct. So these guys are your treasured rookies. As you can see, there are quite a few of them. And these are all relevant selections. If we really want to be really, really picky, and at this point in time, selecting the creme de la creme, I guess Skipkiss, Reid, Howes, I think these guys should be in everybody's teams. Then the question becomes, do you want a Caulfield and a Phillips in addition to that? Caulfield, his job security isn't locked in like everybody else. If he has a couple of bad games, he really could be kicked out of the team. So for that, I think we can remove him if we're going to be particularly harsh. Phillips, he's been recruited for a reason, and given the lack of competition in the Hawthorn back line, I think we can keep him here. I think he is a very viable selection for you to hold on to. Do you think so?
Yeah, no, I definitely think so. Maybe not as high as scoring as the other ones, just because he is playing that key defender interceptor role. But at 102K, he doesn't have to score big. He's only priced at like a 15 or something. So even if he comes out and scores a 40 average, he's still making enough money to keep going. In the midfield, it all looks pretty safe. I would probably go Lazaro and Windsor as the guys who aren't the ones that you want to mainstay pick. And then potentially a Jeremy Sharp as well, just because we haven't seen it. And I don't think the scoring's as high as other players. So if I had to choose, these would probably be my starting midfield rookies.
Yep, absolutely. Livingston or Naismith, you're going to pick one or the other, depending on what you're sort of rocking with. If you're hopeful and optimistic, correct. If Naismith is named. Yes, 100%. If Naismith is named, I think you do pick him. And because you never know. I mean, yeah, all right, he might end up being Charlie Constable and stuck on a 123, but at least you do have an option to downgrade and you're not necessarily stuck with him. Or you could just hold on to him as a loophole for your ruck. And anticipate that Nankervis will get injured or suspended at some point in the future. So you could hold on to Naismith as an R3, particularly as he's got that 93 in his system already. Not too many 123k rookies are going to be able to score that well. So you could hold on to him. I think he's probably going to be the ideal if he's named. I think you just got to pick him. And if not, then you can decide to go with Livingston. And then in the forward line, all of these guys are absolutely viable, as we mentioned.
Yeah, probably go Harley, Reid, Sexton. I think Wilson's the next one on the list.
Yep.
Obviously, and then it's a toss-up between Cadman, Campbell, and Dempsey. I think Cadman just signing the long-term contract. They need to play him in that forward line. He's probably got the best job security out of those three there.
Yep, exactly. And that, guys, was our, well, supposed to be rapid, I suppose, run through of all of the relevant rookies. 40 minutes for, how many players on that team? 22 plus 24.
Probably 30-odd plays we talked about.
Yeah, about 30-odd players
good
there in 40 minutes. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you like what you had to hear here today, please drop us a like and a subscription if you're new. Drop us also any questions that you may have of any rookies that we haven't spoken about. Let us know in the comments down below. We'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you.
Guys, we're going through all the lines, giving you all the information today that you need to finish off your team. I know myself, I'm still struggling and making my side. Joe's the same, and we're making adjustments as kind of the team sheets drop as well. So stay tuned for the other videos. It's going to be a mad one. Fantastic finish to the preseason. I'm excited.
Matt, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm absolutely wrapped with my team. I'm very happy. I'm happy as Larry. I don't know who Larry is, but I'm as happy as he is. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well, guys, to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the videos and live streams that we have going on. We are live every Monday at 7:30 and Thursday for the drive home, where at least one of us will be driving in the car and talking to you guys. Whether it might be me or him, it's definitely going to be him. He'll definitely be in the car, but I might be as well, depending on traffic. But it is, of course, the drive home, and we will be reacting to team sheets and giving our tips for the games on the weekend.
Guys, we've got our SuperCoach League. There's still a couple of days left where you guys can join. There's 3 amazing prizes that you guys could win. Jump on. All the information will be down in the description.
100%, because here, guys, at the Centre Bounce, we do the hard work so that you do not have to.